Today, we're joined by Jamie Bortek, who is the founder of JCB Growth Ventures, which provides board advisory, founder coaching, and active sales and marketing leadership consulting services to drive success for young emerging companies. Jamie has over 20 years experience working with companies of all sizes. We're thrilled to have him joining here today. He's been a wonderful community member attending past events, and Jamie, we're grateful for all of your work with emerging food businesses and the advice and the guidance that you're always so willing to give. So thank you for your time today, and we'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me and inviting me, Lauren and Carol. I'm happy to help here, and nice to be introed virtually to many of you. So for today, I'm really just going to offer a couple of ideas and thoughts, hopefully some nugget of inspiration under the theme of, we're under this period where some things are on hold and it can be frustrating, but trying to be opportunistic in it, take a step back and think of maximizing your time, working on the big things and really impacting your business. I'll try to, use some of my experiences through many startup companies, and some of the trials and tribulations that we go through. And I know, for all those founders out there, what you're going through these rocky roads. And we're going to do this in a couple of buckets. One in sales and marketing, then we'll go into finance and operations team under this idea of the 5 Ps that I, thought of here. So with that, when I started thinking about this, when Lauren asked me to participate and help, my biggest advice, I think, where I see things is where you're pursuing all your goals, whether this is in CPG or other folks from different industries calling in, think through this combination of patience and persistence. You want to keep driving things forward. It's usually that persistence and drive that's great from a founder, but also the set of patience to kind of keep things a little bit more respectful and be patient through this process. And it can be difficult. I also believe, just the way I see things very often, half full, like what's the positive of this? What's the opportunity? And try to see that through. And then also some of the ways that I think of, like advanced planning and preparing ahead of time. I think personally that if you do that, you're going to increase odds of being successful in the end. So in this, they all were P's, which was pretty cool. And I looked online, a couple of quotes here just to share for inspiration. First, one from Harry Truman. A pessimist is one who makes difficulties of his opportunities, and an optimist is one who makes opportunities of his difficulties. So thinking of that. Bill Gates here says patience is a key element to success. So think of some of the challenges and they go through in Microsoft, like kind of patience you need to be successful. Calvin Coolidge on the bottom left, another president, said, nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful people with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated failures. But persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. And Michael Jordan, and very recently here, great documentary for those who have not been watching. It's great. He said, obstacles don't have to stop you. If you run into a wall, don't turn around and give up. Figure out how to climb, go through it, or work around it. So thinking through from a lens how to go through persistence and patience. Russell Wilson, just kind of a random quote, but he's not really the biggest quarterback, not the fastest, but he really preaches, separation is in the preparation as to why he's successful, and, put some good stats and results in the NFL. So we're going to take those 5 Ps and we're going to talk a little bit about starting in sales and marketing. I'm imagining folks are probably thinking a lot about, I see this very much with brands I work with. We had this reset, or we were supposed to have a review. Now it's like, I don't know what to do. It's on hold. Life feels on hold. What do I do? How do I deal with buyers? So my advice, with a lot of depth in my experience in sales, is, goes back to that patience and persistence. And I'm going to add one little layer, which is like an empathy and respect. So knowing buyers are really busy, but you want to get your initiatives done. What's that perfect blend? So suggestions, if you're, reaching out and, you didn't get a response last week, don't be so persistent that you're asking every week, but keep it as something on your list you're not going to give up on, but have patience and respect. So buyer may need 3 weeks to just kind of get through some stuff, but you have it on your list. And maybe an example, a respectful way is, hey, Bob, I know you're busy. I hope you're well. I'm really excited about the upcoming launch, and I'm wondering if you have 5 minutes next week or two, just to talk about how I can drive the business with you with a few things and a question for you. If Thursday or Friday is open by chance next week, got 5 minutes, I'm happy to block on calendar with a call and invite. Like, you made it quick, easy, actionable, respectful, and you didn't overbug. Like, that's a good way to stay in touch and be optimistic and positive that you will have those breakthroughs, you will move things forward, but you have to understand it's not always, perfect. And you have to be patient. The other aspect I try to preach is in the ideas of pursuits. Stay on those key accounts, those key priorities. Don't feel that now with COVID you have to reinvent your business. I hear it often where brands maybe weren't on Amazon or doing their own sales on their e-commerce, and now thinking, okay, I got to do this. This is going to save the world. Well, especially if it's on your own site and you don't put money in to drive it, maybe it's not going to be the thousands and tens of thousands of dollars of sales. Or maybe on Amazon, your product, may not be perfect fit. It might need refrigeration. It might need, it's too heavy in, the whole equation doesn't work in value. So don't just jump that way. Two things that I definitely recommend to companies been working on is kind of no-brainers in my mind is Instacart and Prime Now. So Instacart, I'm hopeful that everyone knows about them and uses it. I'm a big fan. You can go on, get the app and see what's going on. But basically, pretty much every retailer outside of Walmart and Whole Foods is set up for online buys through Instacart. And step one, if you're in a retailer that is using Instacart, you can kind of search it by zip code. And then you go there and you search for your brand and you don't see it. That's definitely a step one where you should be up there. So you first would have to reach out to your category manager, people at the retailer, to set you up for Instacart. So the simple idea, which costs no money, is to put it up on the site. Second, is you can start to work with Instacart for short money and do coupons and pay for placement and try to drive those online purchases that are happening rapidly right now. And I'm seeing that with brands, like tremendous success, great ROI. I would definitely recommend it. Prime Now is many, Whole Foods, which I'm assuming is a good gatekeeper for many of your brands, bought by Amazon. Amazon has a Prime Now feature. So especially with refrigerated and stuff that doesn't get shipped through Amazon, consumers are buying through e-commerce on that. It gets registered. The products are purchased in the Whole Food stores and then shipped to the consumers. And I've seen it with some brands. Sometimes like they're actually not set up, but they actually have their product in that region of the country. So you can reach out to Prime Now and request to make sure if you give them your IX1 numbers and UPCs that you are in that region of Whole Foods. You should be up there. Could they help you with patience and get set up there? That's just the open gate to now have sales online. And it basically, and just to note, the Prime Now sales is going to spearhead some of the portal data at Whole Foods that you're looking at weekly. In the case of Instacart, those are also scanned sales are going to drive your spins and IRI results. So great ways to kind of funnel into this idea of e-commerce. If you're on Amazon and you have a good system, I would definitely highly recommend spend advertising. That could be on both search or certainly ad features. It's definitely a good time to be on it and putting any of your marketing spend on it. And I've found through other brands, Places like Thrive or Hungry Root or iHerb, a couple of these actually have scalable sales and would be worth your pursuing. You check out their sites, see that your category is covered well, shelf stable, whatever it may be. Go pursue it. Cost management is the next tier. I'm going to have to predict that during a time right now, the economy is uncertain, and you have to be cautious about your financials. And so one underrated area of that is your trade spend. Sometimes it's easy to cut something, but you don't know how to do or what to do in the trade spend front. So just big advice is don't shortchange that. It's a big number. Two is, with promotions and things being lifted at times to catch up to the demand, brands are giving OIs that distributors buy for 6 weeks in binge buying, and you're not necessarily seeing the result on shelf for it. That's not a good system for you as the manufacturer. So in 3 to 4 months, if you have one of those eyes coming, you could use the money to then get stronger in your next promotion. It might be fair. It's situational, but it might be fair game to request that you cancel that OI, you push it to another time period, save the money right now, and go stronger and get your feet wet until things get a little bit more normalized. Trade shows, until we see some results from it, maybe be a little bit skeptical of your ROI on it. I understand Expo West is probably going to come back strong, which would be great. And then obviously, Expo East and Expo West as well. I have seen and heard of, virtual trade shows for distributors or shipper shows, things like that. If it's not a must for you, consider passing and saving the money if you're in kind of a tight constraint time period. Last piece of that is trial options in general. I have to imagine a lot of young brands are through a time period where, you are struggling to figure out how to drive sales when you used to do it with in-store sampling. And now all of a sudden the game's changed. So you just got to work through that. Just like Michael Jordan, it's like get through that wall. Think of it just broadly as trial. And if you haven't been really into the world of coupons, start to figure that out. Whether it's shopper marketing and digital or other capabilities that you can do with your own coupons, keep driving that. That's one clear way you can do it. I work with one company, they hadn't actually been set up yet on coupons. So you need to work with a company like Inmar, get set up. There's time lag. So now's a good time to take advantage of that. The next would be you should be thinking about planning ahead. So this is, I guess I'll take a step back. In one frame of mind, you might be going through a period where you need to be on the offense in a couple of months when things kind of open up, and now you're in a wait mode. Now is the time to take a step back on some of these other things that you could put your time to, so that you can be like razor sharp and on the offense on the others, and you don't have to work on these other things. So take a look at that. That might be your presentation in buyer meetings is not really up to par. You could use some updated data and need to request it. You might have brokers and you might be able to, they might have a little bit of bandwidth if they're not traveling and such to give you some time. Maybe they can help you with data. Maybe there's displays and tools and other things that you can use. And you don't have them, and you can start working and designing. You may not have to pull the trigger on the spend, but you can get everything up to snuff for it. The last piece is cost-efficient marketing. PR outreach is something I definitely preach as always advising brands. If you're young and you don't have a press kit, and you have someone on your team who has bandwidth and couldn't write, go online, look at templates, look at other brands' examples, see if you can put together your own, press kit information, and dream big of the places that if they talked about you would be the most perfect for your brand. And don't be afraid, be positive that maybe on a wild card shot, you as a founder might reach out and be able to get some awareness from it. So, put that list together. Don't, be persistent, find out where to get in touch with people, be crafty, do your outreach, maybe in respect. you're offering that you're going through something with COVID and that's interesting content for that person in the press, and that you're offering that as something as value to them. Just think of it like that. So be positive and be persistent in some of those things that really cost you no money. The next I want to go into in the finance and operations side of it. So think about it. Fundraising, I would imagine, is a really big piece for your future, whether it's real short term, near term, long term. And rather than some of the things that are just a little bit of money, this might be like your big thing. It's going to game change your company. Think about how you want to fundraise. Do you have your presentation real gelled in for that to the audience? If not, work on it. Work with people. Get with your team. Make that like really sharp. And think ahead. Maybe you talk to some peer brands. How did they do fundraising? What are some pros and cons they've learned? Take your list. Start building that potential. And even though, some people have told me like it's, with COVID and the situation is not the time to raise money. Well, money takes time to sometimes gather. That could be a 4 to 6 month cycle. And like, you might want to start now on some of the upfront and introductions. Don't be afraid. Maybe there's like someone you've heard of, Circle Up, or there's, I saw one brand did a WeFunder. There's just interesting things that if you look into with your free time, you don't have that commute back and forth right now. You may not have other obligations that were there. Take some of those free moments and look into these things and start to prepare for when you do want to be on the offense for that. Additionally, on the finance front is the P&L. Look at your P&L pretty big. I think that's underrated, that it's easy to find something and pull a cost, and it's hard to kind of go in this kind of like foggy area for some young companies to understand their margins and margins by retailers. If you dive into it through your data, maybe you find out that there's one customer that you are doing EDLPs, you have inefficient shipping, they're taking the most expensive items. There's all these things that are happening and your margins are terrible there, but there's something else that's really driving the profit of your company. Getting an understanding of that and how to drive your business towards some of that better margin and stronger P&L in your future is key. That could be the difference of literally some decisions you make now, where many distributors are asking for your OI schedules and such in the coming month, to getting almost like a $20,000 check in Q1 of 2021, which would feel nice to some young companies. It's actually very attainable by looking at that and understanding your business mix. Additionally, whether you have a big new product launch or you need some capacity planning, there might be some things that are a little farther out there, but you have downtime to look into it, take your time, talk to co-packers. Maybe it's someone on your team who can like put a stellar launch plan together and have that like ready 2 months well before you really need it, but it's done, it's off your plate, so that then when you can do these other things, you can be more on the offense. Lastly, is this idea of team. You could be a young founder and kind of in a solo mission with 1 or 2 employees. You might have a much bigger team, especially to those with the bigger teams. Like, maybe don't underestimate that some people have some more spare time. Maybe some things are on hold. They have that bandwidth. They'd like to get involved in other things, but they just don't know what. So keeping that open communication, looking at what your key priorities are for the whole company, who's lead, who's supporting it, where are roles that people can help out and pitch in as a young company to drive it. That can really make some results during this time period. You may also have a future staff that need that you're looking to fill, but you kind of put on hold right now. Might you consider looking into doing the write-up? Maybe next month you actually post it. You take your time with a couple of interviews. You get to your finalist, you get to an offer. Maybe they start a month or so delayed. You look at that timeline, now might be the time to start working on that. Or you might want to use some interns like that might have some bandwidth of college students or people that are kind of frozen right now. At Food Should Taste Good, we had some great success with Northeastern University. They had a whole co-op program for 6 months. You'd have a college student who's really smart, bright, work 40 hours a week for you and can do some real hard things. And it was a good ROI on your time. University like that, are probably placing people starting in July through December for the next rotation. And maybe some students don't have roles. So just some little things or thought starters to, again, this idea about if you're feeling like, these things are on hold, you can actually be working harder and maximizing your time now so that you're freed up and can do more things when you're able to get on the offense. So in closing, this whole idea, being positive, being patient, being persistent in your goals, planning, preparing ahead, are just my advice for key things to think about to be successful in a lot of these emerging companies. And that's really it. I'll kind of defer to Lauren here and open up for any for questions I can help with.
Great. Thank you very much, Jamie. So we will open it up to questions. If you've got a question, please raise your hand. We will unmute you. Also, you could submit questions via chat here, and I can do the voiceover to Jamie if you can't unmute yourself for any reason. Jamie, one question we did get was on trade shows. So Expo East recently announced that they are hosting their trade show in the fall, end of September. What do you think the role of trade shows will be going forward, particularly for this year, looking into next year? Will it be a good opportunity for brands to connect with buyers and perhaps even more so, given that a lot of resets are being pushed off until next year?
It's a great question. I think I can't really say myself or anyone's an expert on it. It's my personal prediction without any data, expertise in it, that slowly but surely through the summer, we'll see stages of some normalization to the point that something in September, like Expo East, could have some normalization. But if some things go down, that could go a little sideways, and you could see large companies, your Kroger's, Costco's, Amazon's, Whole Foods of the world, may have corporate policies that they don't want their people there physically. So I would say it would be one of the main shows to lean in, but be prepared that if you were on the fence, it's okay to pass and watch, maybe just attend and see what happens. I got to imagine for all the shows 2021, that's where you'll really start to see the normal of the activity and the interaction at the shows.
Great. Another question that came in, can you talk a little bit and expand a little bit on how best to be working with retailers, or perhaps what you've heard back from retailers at this time? As we all know, a lot is being pushed off in terms of new products getting onto shelf. If you're a new product that's not on shelf, what can you be doing right now to maximize your time?
So as a new brand, I'm assuming not in the retailers right now. It's probably no different. It's just, I'll admit it's probably more challenging, but perhaps your own homework of a list of the people who might make decisions in the categories that you're in the key retailers that you want to be, is a step one. Step two might be, hopefully you're able to get those contacts. You have email addresses, or you have to guess at it, or you may need to pioneer through LinkedIn and kind of search through category managers and try to find who that is. And maybe send some message that's not assuming, but friendly and no expectation, that you're trying to be, you're trying to get someone to take a look at your samples. I've seen it where, some retailers are receiving some product at their homes. It's not all the case, and some will start to be able to receive things more in the office. So don't assume it, but ask if by chance, would they enjoy your product? If not, do you have your deck ready that you could send a page or two or a few pages about you so that you can kind of make them educated? And I think, the biggest miss is there was an annual review and you weren't on it and you missed it, you have to wait a whole nother year. And as long as you kind of got that information, you didn't miss it. That's step one. Step two is stay persistent but patient and trying to find when is that next window, and just be patient for your time and to get samples, to send information. And that's really the best advice I can give at this point. But don't go too much to the point that you're annoying buyers. You have to be patient through that process.
And I think that that's advice well taken for companies, whether we're in or outside of COVID. Being patient with the buyer network and the community is key. Regarding brands that you may be doing work with, how are they rethinking their demos? Have you seen any creative efforts that they've been carrying forth that have been successful or not successful to replace that interaction with consumers at this point, given the fact that they can't go into grocery stores and do a lot of that sampling?
Absolutely. One brand, clearly was, we pulled money out of budgeting on it. We did some digital coupons. Some were customer specific and the key priorities that needed to happen. In others, it was like great opportunity in Amazon. Let's channel that money in some search and some advertising combinations. Others formed it in Instacart couponing. And others, we've just kind of put it as a, maybe some of the in-store efforts channel to merchandising. There's companies like Base Makers and Dirty Hands and stuff you can hire to do some activity in your store. But if it's not substituting the impact of a demo for you. Others are holding it as a frozen fund. So maybe we're going to go back to the ambassador demos that we had planned, and we're going to earmark that for October. But if it's back and still not on, we're going to push it back out. So they're just holding the timing of that spend.
Great, thank you. We had another question come in. I'm going to try to ask this concisely, but with retailers and distributors doing some item rationing, what have you seen in terms of what's making its way onto truck, what's not making its way onto the truck, and what retailers are prioritizing in terms of the grocery store? I hope that I'm asking that question the right way. If not, feel free to raise your hand and chime in. But does that make sense, Jamie?
This is just, can you repeat it? Is it the way that which categories where distributors and retailers are prioritizing to get on shelf?
I think that's, yeah.
Like the common things you'd expect, your sanitation and breads, and obviously right now meat's going through a challenging time. Those hit those moments. There's no one size fits all. It's based on where they're shallow, where they're, really in gaps. I think the answer is that they're really trying to do it for all. I'd seen from some data that, some of the fill rates, you can see through distributors can be, 60 to 70%, and now they're getting into the mid 80s across the board and catching up. So I'm pretty optimistic that, what we saw, certainly in mid-March and early April is improving, and it should be that way across all categories.
Great. Well, we are at 1:30. I know that went by super fast, but Jamie, thank you so much for your time and for your great guidance on this topic. I think you've touched on a lot of points that I know we've been hearing back from the community in terms of what entrepreneurs are dealing with right now and how they're navigating the impact of COVID on their supply chains, their sales, and the financial aspects of their business. So thank you for the great advice and content. If you have further questions for Jamie, his contact information is up on the screen, james@jcbgrowthventures.com, or you're always welcome to reach out to info@branchfood.com with any feedback, but we're happy to connect you with Jamie as well. Thank you all for joining this session. We hope you'll join tomorrow, where we have Sari Kimball, the founder and CEO of Sari Kimball Consulting, talking about going hyperlocal in times of COVID, how to support your community and your cash flow. As a quick reminder, this session will be available by the end of today, but all past sessions are available on our YouTube channel, Branchfood YouTube channel, which are all linked from our website at branchfood.com/servingupsupport. So we look forward to hosting you again in the future. Jamie, thank you again for your time, and hope you all have a wonderful day.
Excellent. Thank you. Great organization in Branchfood. So thanks, Lauren, for all that you do.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.